good morning, good day, and good evening. Welcome back to the show. Today we have a returning guest. Welcome back to the show, Livakivi. How you doing?
Hello, I'm doing great.
I'm gonna put you on the spot because you did do that whole video in Japanese. Give us an intro in give us just an intro off the top of your head.
In Japanese?
Yes. Let's
Oh God.
let's see how we go.
はい、どうもこんにちは、リワキビです。はい、私はここで3回目ですね。あーでも、今回は、まあ1年、なんだっけ。when was our last?
Uh, I think
Like a year ago
yeah,
or
about a
two
year ago,
years
I
ago?
reckon so.
2年ぶりで、1年ぶりで、ここでもう一回このポッドキャストに登場しています。はい。
I no, sorry,
Hope.
it was 2 years ago. I was wrong. No, wait, no, that
Oh,
first one was
okay.
2 years ago. Wait, yeah. Okay, first one was 2 years ago. There was one after that a year ago. Jeez, you're on really early. I completely forgot about that one.
Yeah, time flies, it seems. I guess,
Yeah,
yeah, that was
absolutely.
pretty long ago.
I understood about. I'm gonna say about 75% of that, and I understood enough to follow along. But I have not put in as much effort as you have in learning Japanese.
Well, that's still pretty good. Are you still learning?
Yeah. I am still. I know you did that. The most popular video on your channel is the Duolingo video. I actually started
Oh,
going through Duolingo, and
oh,
the, it's a weird app because there's a lot of things about it where I feel like it's perfectly fine for like picking up vocab, but then it does some weird sentence structure, especially when it's trying to get you to do the English version of a sentence where it's like, why do you want it in this very
uh,
specific form? Or one really
yeah.
annoying thing, whenever it does names, it will say like if it's like Tanaka Ken, it will then want you in the English version to do it the other way round. It's like
Uh,
what are you doing? It'll like tell you you're wrong if you do it like in the way it doesn't expect you to do it.
yeah, I haven't used Duolingo for like a really long time now. I haven't even really like checked it out because I know that it has changed so much since I used it. Like, I started using it like in its quite early form, and as I was using it, it went through like 3 to 4 like extensions and renovations. But like from what I've heard, it's like completely different now. Like they completely revamped the tree. I haven't even seen anything, so I'm not sure what it's like now. But yeah, Duolingo is one of those things that I can't believe that I used it for so long, to be honest.
And
Um,
at this stage, I don't know if like it's kind of one of these things like it's kind of like Rosetta Stone where people have sort of memed it into this position where nobody actually has like a proper opinion on it anymore. Like there's very few people like you who actually used it for like 800 plus days who actually formed a proper opinion. A lot of what people say about it is very much just repeating what other people have said.
Yeah, it's like I like I've always said in my videos when it comes to language learning is that when you're a beginner or like when you're not in the like 3,000 hour club already, then it's like it really doesn't matter what you use because most of the time most of it is going to be pretty much the same in the sense that you're going to get the base vocabulary, some level of grammar and things like that. It doesn't really matter what you use for that. And about it being efficient or time efficient or whatever, if you're talking about something that's going to take you like 100 to let's say even 500 hours in the grand scheme of things, that is a really short amount of time in terms of what it actually takes to reach a high level of fluency in a language. Like, well, okay, I think I used Duolingo. I don't know exactly, and I don't remember exactly, but I think it was like definitely under 200 hours in total, even though I used it for 800 days. Like,
Yeah.
I had a strict streak of 800 days.
Mhm.
But like the 200 hours is such a small amount of time compared to what I put into, for example, Anki, which is almost like close to 2,000 hours, for example, as well as like immersion and things like that.
Yep, yep. I think for me, the most important thing, and I'm sure this applies to most other people, is finding something that you can actually do consistently. Like, it's all well and good to say, like, Anki is really efficient, and all of these things, like, really efficient, but if you do it once, and then you just don't ever get back to it, you can't get yourself into a habit where you're doing it every single day, it doesn't matter how good the resource actually is, because you're not going to really learn anything from it.
Yeah, absolutely, in the sense that the most important thing is consistency when it comes to, for example, learning a language, because learning a language at the end of the day is a cumulative skill in the sense that as long as you keep adding bricks to your house that you're building of the language, then you are going to make progress. But if you suddenly just stop adding those bricks, so if you quit or don't use those tools, then there's no point because you're not learning, right?
Yeah.
So it's good to use something like Duolingo to establish consistency, if that's the way that, if that's what works. And, eventually, once you've, finished everything that there is in the tree, and that you're confident that you can continue using other tools or just, immersion and whatever consistently, then that's totally fine, I think.
Yeah, let's see. I actually don't know how many modules there are at this point. Let me just check. So at this stage there are 6 modules, or 6 sections they call them, and I'm on the second one. But I think it skipped me halfway through the first one. Like, when you first started up, it like gives you a language test, like, what is your level currently at, and then it'll like jump you ahead.
Yeah, I guess they started doing something like that.
Because if
I guess
they realize, like, if you know the basics, like, a couple of kanji, hiragana, for example. Like, there's no point reteaching you hiragana if you already know it.
Yeah.
I know. For me, I found it to be quite useful. Because I was doing the whole, like, going over vocab stuff. But my issue was I couldn't find a way that I consistently, like, dealt with grammar. For whatever reason, the resources I was dealing with, just, I couldn't find anything that clicked with me, and I was getting the vocab down just fine. But if you don't have the grammar to string it together, like, that's not entirely useful.
Yeah, Japanese grammar is interesting in the sense that when I started learning, I remember that I used Duolingo for like since the beginning as the first thing that got me into learning Japanese. Then a few weeks later, I started using Anki and the Day Kim's grammar guide, or like the complete guide to Japanese or whatever that you can find online for free. But I did understand, like, I did learn the basics from it, like the particles and stuff like that. But most of the time, I read through the book as well as through the grammar guide, but I didn't really, like, even though I read through those things, I didn't, they didn't particularly click with me or stay with me for the most part. The only thing that, the main benefit was that I knew that something existed that might be in that book if I ever need to look it up in the future. But the truth is that I actually haven't looked up that many things, like, that many times as people might expect, in the sense that even now I don't feel like my grammar is perfect, but just over time, through immersion and sentence mining and stuff like that, I don't really worry about grammar anymore. I feel like it just naturally just started to understand it over time.
So you had sort of enough of a foundation where you could understand the context of things being used in, and then sort of piece it together.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like Japanese grammar is kind of like vocabulary in the end. Like if you have, what's a good example? For example, when I try to like recall something, like my mind goes completely blank in situations like this. So for example, oh my god, seriously, I can't remember anything. For example, nioite, like for example, that grammar point, I'll just write it down just in case. It's like it's technically a grammar point, but it's essentially a word. Like you can look it up from the dictionary and you'll understand what it is. But technically, it's a grammar point. But it acts just like a word in a way. So it essentially means like, well, it's hard to translate to English, but it's like in terms of that, for example.
Okay.
And just there's a ton of those, and they are pretty easy to learn through context. Like the only like true grammar things, in my opinion, are things like conjugations, and it's okay to, I think, memorize them, but it's not super necessary. Like you can probably learn the te form and stuff like that pretty easily. So when you want to do output early on, though, then it's definitely good to practice them. I didn't, and well, I did a little bit through an Anki deck, but even now I mess up conjugation sometimes in my output. But it has gotten better when I like actually started practicing output over time, and I don't really worry about it. Like I'm not going to bother with doing extra practice of like memorizing or like using conjugations, because I'm just going to use them so many times through output anyway, naturally. So over time, it will fix themselves by itself.
That is one thing I think Duolingo does kind of do, or it kind of helps me out with, at least actually doing the output. And I feel like for me, that helps me piece other things together. Like it'll give you a sentence and then it makes it very clear on the loading screen, like, hey, you should probably say this out loud. And I'll tend to like play around with whatever sentence it gives me as well. Like slot in other words, try to like piece things together. And I feel like for me that's really helped me start like trying to really I guess grasp it, in a way that I just wasn't before. Like I've gone through some of the take him stuff as well, and yeah, when I first read it, a lot of the stuff, like I got some of like the basic examples, like I worked out how like wah worked, but then when it started to get to, like some of the more complex examples, I'm like I'm sure the resources here are good, but it's just not clicking with me for some reason.
Like different grammar points and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it just doesn't click, in the sense that that's normal. In the sense that like it's so hard to completely understand something that isn't entirely logical, and
Sure.
that requires so much experience in the language. Like I feel like it's just something that people might worry too much over. Like even when you get better advanced, there can be some level of vagueness in, for example, the difference between the va and ga particle. And that's fine, in the sense that there is some specific nuance to it, but it's hard to approach it entirely logically. In some languages, grammar definitely works more like that, in the sense that, for example, conjugations in Estonian and comma rules in Estonian, but Japanese doesn't really have those, like the comma stuff and rules like that, like really strict rules. So it's definitely hard to approach it, in the sense that you need to perfect the grammar before you can move on, because you kind of can't, is what I feel. Like you have to accept some level of like vagueness, essentially.
I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I think that might have been my issue early on. I wanted to make sure I like fully got it, and then
Yeah.
I think because I was just bashing my head against the wall so much, I just got bored with going through that method. But I do agree there. I think with this having some sort of, I think I'd also probably do fairly well if I did classes as well, because there's sort of a plan to go forward. Like, if I'm left with just the resources that are just out there, I tend to just hyper focus on a part until I fully get it. And yeah, it seems like that might not be the most effective way to go about it.
Yeah, like classes actually might have benefits like that, in the sense that you have a test, you learn that you learn those concepts for the test, in the sense that you either pass or you don't. You pass or you don't, essentially. But if you don't have a grade, for example, if you use Duolingo, you don't really know if you pass or don't. It's more like, do I feel confident that I completely understand this or not? But it's difficult to feel that confidence sometimes with this language. So with classes, there is the, progression is more like streamlined, in a sense. Also, I also logged into Duolingo for the first time in like years, and it's completely different, like the tree. And I suppose that's how far I currently have the tree unlocked.
So what that would, I can't.
I guess it's section 3, unit 28.
Yeah, okay.
Like, I'm not sure how translated it is, or like migrated it is from the old tree to this one, but I guess I can scroll quite a lot before like I reach the point where it's like still locked, I suppose.
Also, I think maybe this is just my gamer brain. Just having a leaderboard there also just makes me just keep going as well. Like,
yeah, that's kind of fun.
Like, people talk about, like, you'll see people criticize the idea of gamifying everything, but for me at least, like, I will get to like 30 minutes before the the reset of the leaderboard, and there will be someone who is just creeping up to the experience I've got. I'm like, no, you are not taking my place. I just do like a couple of extra lessons that I otherwise wouldn't have done that day. And yeah, in that way, I think it works pretty well for me. It might not be the system that works for everyone, but I don't know, at least for me, and doing extra things outside of what like is just required. Like, if you're just, mindlessly filling in what it says, maybe you won't get as much out of it. But if you're trying to actually use it as a resource and learn from it, I think then, at least, as I said, at least for me, it's felt like a positive learning experience.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it can be fun. Like, it's definitely less like, it's something that you can build a habit with, because it's like, even if it has like these small things that aren't necessarily a part of the language learning, paradigm, like the gamified approach and stuff like that. And even though they're not necessary, it's still like whatever works, essentially, is how I view it. By the way, like, do you have any idea how many words you might know, or do you have like no data on that?
I'm not. It tells me how many words I've gone through. I don't actually know if it gives you the number anywhere.
I do remember that it used to like show something at one point.
Probably does somewhere, but goals. No. I wouldn't.
But it also might be like only on the mobile app or something like that.
Yeah,
because I know that
I'm on the mobile app right now.
Oh, okay. I don't see it on the website either.
Yeah, maybe they don't have the number. Not sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. They constantly add and remove stuff, so. But yeah, well, my point, what I wanted to say was like, have you ever tried like sentence mining yet?
Well, no, I haven't messed around with that. No.
Well, I suppose if you don't like using Anki, then you can't really do sentence mining unless you like.
when I did it the first time, I didn't really enjoy it. Maybe now that I have more context around how the words can be used, maybe then I would have a different experience with it. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
It's worth trying
possible
out.
because using cards that you make yourself from your own immersion is quite a different experience than using pre-made cards.
Mhm.
I'll be honest. Like, it's difficult to do when you have a like zero comprehension, but when you have like some level of knowledge in the language already,
Mhm.
then like let's say even minimum 1,000 words. If you start using like really easy media for
Mhm.
sentence mining, I think it's a really good way, a really good thing to try in the sense that, in my opinion, for increasing your comprehension, I feel like sentence mining is by far the best thing
Mhm.
that I've ever done.
Mhm.
Like, it's just it's just like before and after starting sentence mining, uh, I felt like the way my Japanese like started improving was just on a completely different level, because you can learn the words in isolation and that will increase your comprehension, like your
Mhm.
baseline and grammar stuff like that as well. But when you start like sentence mining and learning those words and grammar points in context, first of all, the Anki reviews are going to be much easier.
Mhm.
You can learn more words in a much higher pace, and it's like you can keep track of your progress and stuff like that as well. And I feel like there's just something about having the context and that helps like increase your comprehension so much more and confidence in the language, like that you understood what it meant. Because for example, if you have a grammar point in a textbook
Mhm.
or a word in an Anki text that has some random example sentence, I feel like the issue is that you, it might create more questions than it answers.
Mhm.
But when it's in a context, for example, some subtitle from an anime, some
Mhm.
word, it's like, okay, in that anime, in that context, that's what it meant. And you move
Mhm.
on, basically. And there's like no additional worries or anything like that.
Mhm.
But the hardest part about sentence mining is getting started. I think like once you understand how to do it, then it's like extremely simple.
Mhm.
But I mean, all it really takes is like you use Anki, you make a Anki deck for your cards. And you just start watching something. For example, some anime. You get Japanese subtitles for that anime,
Mhm.
and then you just when you have a word that you don't understand, then you just look it up. For example, with Yomi-chan, or you can also use Migaku and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then you just every word that you don't understand, you just try to look up and add into Anki if you don't know it.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's extremely easy once you get it. And I feel like it's extremely good for learning as well. But
Mm.
it's not like the only way in the world. But that's just my personal favorite way of like improving really well.
You mentioned simple media, and I'm blanking on who it was now. I want to say it was Ladybeard who said that uh the way they learned Japanese was the Japanese dub of Peppa Pig.
Yeah, I've heard it before that people use Peppa Pig for learning languages. And the funny
That
thing
or
is
like
that
Dora the Explorer, some one of these kids show where
yeah,
they constantly repeat a word in like and make it very clear exactly what they're talking about.
yeah. But well, like it's not necessary in the sense that there can be advanced, media for like more, adult audiences that
Mhm.
isn't like super difficult in the sense that, media that doesn't have much dialogue, for example,
Mm.
things like that as well. And there's also like jpdb.io, a,
Mhm.
web, a website, and you
I don't
can
recognize that one.
sort
I
anime and manga and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Difficulty. I haven't used it myself, but like it might be really good for finding content that might be fun to watch and easy as well, essentially,
Oh, I wasn't aware of this one.
for
That's actually
sentence
really
mining and
cool.
stuff like that. Yeah, I think it's
Difficulty.
a good way to find content.
Okay,
But
let's not go with
speaking of
Legend of the
like
Galactic Heroes. That seems like a bad idea.
yeah,
That
Seems pretty long.
or like Monogatari. Both seem like a really
Yeah.
bad idea to go with.
The one problem with that site is though that
Mhm.
the difficulty rating, for example, the 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10, it's heavily biased towards the length of the content, in the sense that if it has a long length, you can bet that it's going to be on the top, essentially.
Uh-huh.
Essentially, especially for like novels and stuff like that on that website. But
Mm-mm.
it's still fine, especially the 1 out of 10 difficulty stuff.
Mhm.
But the funny thing is that, speaking of like children's shows and stuff like that, one of those is Moomins. I'm not sure if you ever watched or heard about it.
No, I don't know that one.
I'll just paste like a screenshot. Maybe you can recognize the characters
Very possibly.
like this.
Um, it kind of rings a bell, but I'm not certain.
Oh well, it's like a Finnish Sweden origin
Mhm.
cartoon, but it's like animated in Japan, and
Okay.
it's like an anime in Japan, but it's like the origin is like from Finland and Sweden, and like in those
Ah.
areas, like everybody knows them essentially, especially here in Estonia and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I tried watching it in Japanese, and like already a long time ago, and it's pretty watchable. But the funny thing is that I watched some episodes again, like after I reached 20,000 Uny Cards, so like half a year ago or something. And in like 1 or 2 episodes, I encountered like 20 new words that I hadn't ever seen in my life, which is like pretty funny because it's supposed to be like a children's show, but still there were so many words that I didn't know.
Mhm.
But it's like really specific things, like a specific way to call a river in Japanese, or a specific way to call a boat in Japanese, and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, I guess that's sort of the fun in language learning. Like you're never going to know it. Like you, no matter how much you learn the language, you're never gonna learn every single word. Like even
Yeah.
I am a native English speaker, and every so often I will come across a word. I'm like, what in the world does that? What are you saying? Open up the dictionary, like,
Yeah.
oh, I see. Just use a normal word, please.
Yeah. It's like and the words that are like more commonly used in like British English, or like perhaps Australia and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but like not so commonly in America and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it's like if you do sentence mining, you are essentially, the path you take to learning the language is going to be completely unique, in the sense that for example, let's say you start off with some easy anime, but suddenly you feel like watching Berserk or something like that, or like some um, anime that's really using like medical vocabulary a lot and things like that. It's like the vocabulary you build is going to be like completely personalized to yourself through the content that you watch, which is pretty fun.
But there would still be like general stuff. It's just like if you started watching I don't know, you start watching some Yakuza anime. That seems like
Yeah.
a good way to skew the way you speak very quickly.
Yeah, it's you're most likely, the fun thing is that even Yakuza stuff has like specific vocabulary. For example, I think Yakuza call normal people, so like people that are not Yakuza, is like Katagi, for example, instead of just something like Ippanjin or something. It's like the Yakuza world has like a specific vocabulary as well. So there's like such a huge, vast range of vocabulary, both in English, but especially in Japanese as well. So it's like, even if you reach a high number of words from sentence mining, you're still going to have a bunch of words that you don't know, which can sound really demotivating in a way, overwhelming. But the funny thing is that once you reach a certain point, you completely stop caring about that anymore. Like there's nothing, like for example, the same way, if you're a native in English, I'm sure you don't really care if you see a word that you don't know yet. Like, it's like, whatever, I'll just look it up when necessary.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be the same with foreign languages at one point, once you like actually reach that point.
Yeah, once you have enough to understand, once you have enough language knowledge to be able to use a dictionary, then it becomes a lot easier to actually look up words.
Yeah, and it's like, at some point, it stops feeling like a chore, and it's just going to be more like, just like, okay, there's a word I don't know, I'm just going to look it up. There's not a big deal, and it's totally fine. Like, I personally, like I said, it's like I reached 20,000 words after like 5 years of learning, like 2,000 hours of Anki and stuff like that. But it's like I can still find words that I don't know from simple content. And even though for some people it might sound like really depressing, but personally I don't care at all. Like, if anything, it's like almost exciting to see, like, holy shit, there's like a new word in this really simple anime. That's pretty cool. I can, learn even more, essentially, from such a simple piece of media.
I don't know if I asked you the last 2 times you're on, but why did you start learning Japanese? I might have asked you, but I don't remember it.
I'm not sure if you did, but it's quite simple in the sense that I was learning Russian for fun, essentially, on my own, before learning Japanese. And the furthest I got was like a 100-day streak on Duolingo, and then I lost it, and then I stopped for a while, and then I started learning again. And then I started doing like Anki for Russian, and I like did that for like a month. And after that month, I made a friend with a Japanese person. And my other friend was learning Japanese for a while already. And I was like, I want to try out learning a Asian language as well, because it's like, I want to know how like kanji work and stuff like that. It seemed like interesting, essentially. And because I made a Japanese friend, I decided that, okay, I'm going to try out, learning a little bit of Japanese. So I opened the Japanese course on Duolingo, and essentially I'm still learning to this day from that point on.
Yeah, that's a simple enough story.
Yeah, it's like there's like no other specific reason that I started learning just out of curiosity, essentially, and towards the language for the most part. And then it's just continued from there. Like, all the things like anime and stuff like that came after that. And I haven't watched much anime, to be honest. Only like, I think 32 or like 35 seasons in total. So if JoJo has like, I don't know, 5 seasons or something, then that's like part of that 35 in that sense.
Well, I'm happy that JoJo's part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, because most people, I would assume, probably do it in the opposite order. Like, they'll watch anime, and then, at some point, like, oh, I'm going to sit down and learn Japanese.
Yeah.
Go on.
That definitely seems to be more common. Like, most of the aged people, like all Japanese all the time, which is like a learning method that used to be really popular at one point, which is like, you learn, well, like the name says, all Japanese all the time. So you're constantly consuming Japanese content all the time, and you try to avoid using other languages. And a lot of people who were into that learning method were all like hardcore weebs, in the sense that they watched a ton of anime before, and now they were essentially now had a way to make it productive, even by learning the language, which is a great way to like make watching anime productive.
At least convince yourself it's productive.
Yeah. Funnily enough, for me, learning Japanese has been like the perfect excuse to like make anything productive, essentially, if I really want to. So in that sense, it's a really fun skill to learn. Like, watching whatever YouTube videos, or anime or movies or stuff like that. Like you can even watch like, I don't know, let's say you want to watch Shrek or something, but you don't want to waste time on it, so you watch it in Japanese and sentence mining. So now it's suddenly productive.
You know, now I kind of want to go watch Shrek in Japanese. Wait, I wonder who. Hold up, Shrek. I want to know who did the voice for Shrek. Hold up, let me see.
It's really good. I watched it actually. Like I actually watched it. It's really good. Like the voice is like, it literally sounds like Eddie Murphy was Japanese for Donkey, at least.
Masatoshi Hamada. Why, you don't really have that many roles. Did the voice of Slowking in Pokemon. Okay, sure. What a random role. What about Donkey? Let's see. Okay. Oh, okay, that's a lot bigger of a list. Wait, the voice of Pikachu in Detective Pikachu. Okay, sure. Okay, I'm seeing some fun roles on here. I know, I definitely want to go watch it.
I think Shrek was voiced by some Japanese comedian, like some famous comedian or something like that.
That explains why he doesn't have many anime roles. Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
But yeah, it was really like I was surprised. It was like really good quality, the dub.
Yeah, that seems to often be the case with Japanese dubs thing. I think it's because voice actors actually get, paid, whereas in a lot of English dubs for things, especially in anime, from my understanding, pay's not very good. So when pay's not very good, people tend to gravitate away from the field. Like you get a lot of good, game English dubs and movie like voiceovers, but when it comes to anime, like the pay's low, so the quality tends to also follow in the same way.
Yeah, and there's also something like there's like a specific vibe that I suppose people want when it comes to English dubs for anime. Like they all sound the same, but I'm pretty sure that's on purpose because like the same goes for Japanese dubs for the most part. Like there are exceptions to it. For example, Shrek is a good example of like a proper like actual dub. But there are a ton of Japanese dubs which are essentially like, for example, documentaries or let's say something like Breaking Bad. The dub sounds exactly like it was an anime, so it feels like extremely unnatural, and it's hard to watch and things like that. So yeah, Japanese dubs are like, most of them can be really bad because it's like Western content, so they try to like, well, not because it's Western content, but it's like it's a English dub, and if it's just, I mean, it's an English show, but if they dub it Japanese, unless it's like a really high quality production, then it's most likely going to sound like anime, and so it's going to be really unnatural. Like you're going to have like old characters are going to all sound like Goofy and speak in a certain way and stuff like that. Instead of like acting like real people, essentially.
I just looked up. I just looked up the Breaking Bad Japanese dub, and yeah, I see why it sounds like anime.
Yeah.
The voice for Walter is just an anime voice actor.
Yeah, probably.
He voices the same character and everything. It's like gray old man. Like that's his character type.
Yeah, like a lot of dubs are exactly like that, and it's like it's really like if you want to have dubs for like Japanese dubs for Western content, you have to get lucky that it's not for like if it's something actually good.
Well, I guess part of it is that people have an expectation of on what it's going to sound like. Like similar to how you did that video entirely in Japanese and you just did like the Japanese YouTuber voice.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is that even news in Japan, for example, if there's a news of a foreigner giving an interview or something like that. Even like in serious situations, like for example, you have news of Ukraine in Japan and interviews with the people living in Ukraine. They are all going to sound like anime characters. Like, like they're all going to have that. If it's a female, it's going to have like, 大変ですよね. Like, they just all sound like anime characters because that's just how Western people are often, or like foreigner people are often dubbed in Japan.
Huh.
It's like it's not like a negative thing in a sense. Like it's not like they're trying to be like derogatory or anything against foreigners, but it's like it's just a staple. But I suppose some people like say that it's disrespectful because all foreigners are going to sound like clowns, essentially. Like it's going to give that subconscious vibe to a lot of people. Personally, I don't care though.
No, I've not sat down and watched any Japanese news. I didn't know that was a thing that happened, but I guess like along with, you know, all the rest of the dubbing that exists, I guess it does make sense. Like it fits in with the way that voice acting is typically done. So it would be odd if that was like the one area where it didn't sound like that.
Yeah, it's just like it's when you have something like media, like anime or games or news. Well, I mean not news, movies. Then you expect it. You expect there to be some kind of, you know, it's not reality, so you expect it to be kind of like that. But when it comes to like news, it's like real people that are interviewing, like. But even making them sound like anime characters is kind of like. You're not used to it when you see it for the first time, but it's like it's such a staple that you get used to it over time when you watch Japanese content.
We've probably scared away most people by this point. I wasn't planning to turn this into a let's talk about Japanese for 40-minute episode.
Yeah, I kind of didn't expect that myself as well.
But it's fine. Let's talk about the other thing that you've been doing. So you have been messing around with Linux again.
Yes.
It's not the first time you've done so.
No. I've actually used Linux a lot in a way, in the sense that I don't remember exactly year by year, but I already used Linux like not on my not like daily drive, but I've used Linux already like way back in like way back. No, it's not that long ago. In like I remember using it in 2015, for example, and I put it on my own laptop in like 2018 or something, and I used it at work, daily driving it at work for a really long time. And I tried making a Linux challenge, which I made into a video, and I had some serious issues there in the sense that the thing that was the worst was that I couldn't use Discord, in the sense that I couldn't use voice calls in Discord because my voice sounded like unacceptably low quality, essentially, with the same mic I'm using right now.
Yeah, I don't understand what happened there, because I don't know how that happened. I've never heard of anyone else having that problem. It seems like whenever anyone does a Linux challenge video, like somehow extra problems just crop up that nobody else mentions.
Yeah, like when normies do Linux challenges, they have problems for some reason. But the issue was probably something to do with the motherboard's like audio chip, like ALC. What was it, like?
That makes sense.
1, 2 something, I think. But that was most likely the cause, and it had nothing to do with the distro, because I tried it on multiple distros back then, and then recently, like just a few months ago, I tried it again on Fedora, on whatever else, and it was exactly the same issue every single time with that hardware.
Probably some sort of wonky audio driver then, I guess.
Yeah, most likely. I don't know if that matters or not, but like, is there a difference if, like, I'm not sure if it couldn't be. I don't know if back then it used Pulse Audio or Pipewire for the transmission.
When was that?
For example, in 2020, what was it? 2.
On Fedora?
On Ubuntu, I think.
No, it was definitely Pulse on Ubuntu back then. I think Fedora might have swapped. I can't remember the exact date.
Right now with the Fedora 39, I tried it with that as well, and it had the same issue on that hardware. But
I'm not sure what that would be.
Spoiler. Like with my current hardware, I don't have that issue though with the same mic. Also, I don't know if you saw my macOS video.
I probably watched it. I did watch it actually. It's the bar's red. Yeah, I don't remember anything from it. It was a long time ago that it came out.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was a really big video. It was a 50-minute video. And I can to make it short, it was like I put so much time into macOS to make it like usable for me. I had so many issues with it because one was usability, which was, I discovered that macOS by default, so without any third-party software, is quite limited in terms of what you can do in terms of window management.
Yep.
So many people say that actually it's just that I'm using macOS like it was Windows or something like that, which maybe is true in the beginning, but now I know exactly how to use macOS. And it's still limited. It's like you can't use shortcuts to move windows around, for example, and things like that. Like you can't resize windows or snap them into anything with shortcuts only, for example, natively, unless you download third-party applications. So essentially, in the end, I downloaded or I installed Yabai, which is a tiling window manager on macOS. And essentially, I started using macOS as if it were a tiling window manager based setup, essentially. Well, it was. And I actually quite liked it in the end. Like the final setup I had was pretty good. I would still use it happily every day. But there were a few other issues as well with macOS that I had. Well, still have. I still have the computer, but I just have I built a different computer by now as well. But I just won't go too deep into it in this video because I made the video if people want to check it out. And essentially, the main issue I have is that if I'm using a MacBook, I need to have 2 computers because I can't do everything on a MacBook because it does not support, for example, 32-bit applications, even if they are native to macOS. And I didn't know that when I actually bought the MacBook. And sure, I could live without 32-bit applications. I actually use some like older games and stuff like that for recording footage for my videos sometimes. I would need to use a different computer for that. Even like emulators, like Parallels, which is like a Windows emulator, don't run certain software. For example, if I want to make a VR chat segment for my Japanese learning videos, I can't because Easy Anti-Cheat was added to VR chat, which does not support a like ARM architecture, even on like the Windows emulators and stuff like that. So I need to have 2 computers. And the other issue was that for video editing, the performance is really good. It really is good, but it's not good enough, like for me. Because essentially, my video editing is a bit different from most people in the sense that I use a lot of screen recordings and a lot of assets and a lot of motion graphics in my videos. And even if it is really good for, like performance-wise, really good for like editing 4K camera footage, it's still going to be really bad when I try to like do a lot of motion graphics where I need to like, for example, do a small animation that I need to keyframe, and I perhaps need to like change the timing of the keyframe by a few milliseconds and see what kind of a difference it makes, like 100 times until I'm happy with it. And if I need to if it lags every single time, unless I cache it, which is going to take a really long time because DaVinci Resolve doesn't have completely manually controllable caching, unfortunately.
What?
Then it's a huge pain to work with hardware that's not as powerful as possible. And I'm just going to say this right now because I know every time I say this, there are going to be comments about this. There are people who say that on DaVinci Resolve, there is manual caching because if you set the caching mode to user, then it's, user-based caching, hence the name. But the thing is that I've actually read the manual and user-based mode, user caching does not cache certain effects. It doesn't cache motion graphics effects at all. Only the automatic quote-unquote smart caching does that. And it's not direct enough. So I essentially need hardware that's as powerful as possible. So I had two choices. I need two computers if I want to keep the MacBook. So I'd need to either have a Windows computer, like a desktop, or I should get a Windows laptop. And the reason I need a laptop is because maybe I'm going to go abroad very soon and for a long time. And I'm going to need to have a laptop for that because I need it to be portable. So I decided at one point I started researching Windows laptops because the 4000 series, NVIDIA 4000 graphics card series laptops came out a few months after I had bought the MacBook. But the issue with those was that they were so incredibly expensive when they came out. I'm talking the 4090 ones were minimum 4,000 to well over 5,000 euros here. And
yeah, okay.
Yeah, they were so expensive. Literally, they made MacBooks look like budget devices. I'm not even joking when I said that. MacBooks genuinely had really good price to performance compared to those Windows laptops. And my issue with that, with the price, is not only that it's not the best price to performance, but it's also the build quality and design of most of those Windows laptops is horrible in the sense that they're they are actually budget gaming laptops that are really plasticky and RGB, but the price is still over 4,000, which is really it's just sad in a sense.
A lot of the gaming companies, especially, they have these shells they use for their entire product SKU, all the way down from the bottom to the top with no additions.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's just so painful to even think about buying a powerful Windows laptop. The only one that I liked a lot was the Mercury White Razer Blade laptop. But the issue is that the 4090 version of that starts from 5,200 euros or something like that. And the 4080 version costs 4,400 minimum here.
I am scrolling through laptop prices right now, and I'm seeing ridiculous prices. Oh my god.
They are just ridiculously expensive, especially in Europe. In the US, there are some insanely well-priced deals now. There was some HP Omen with a 4090 that cost $2,400. Maybe it's even less by now. But I can't really. I spend so much time looking up Windows laptops. I researched so much the prices and stuff like that. And at one point, I almost wanted to buy plane tickets to travel to the US to just buy something from there because it's going to be cheaper than buying from here or ordering from the US and paying the tolls fees and stuff like that. I even discovered that there are ThinkPads with 4090s, but the problem with them is that the CPU is extremely weak compared to the gaming ones. Because if you have i9 13900 H, which is the one that the ThinkPads use, then the H version is so much weaker than the HX version that the gaming laptops use. So unfortunately, that's not a choice either, even though I think ThinkPads do look pretty nice. Like, they are actually completely acceptable, in my opinion. I would like to have one, but unfortunately, they're just not powerful enough, once again. And so Windows laptops just don't really seem to be a choice. I actually found a website in Europe which sold Windows laptops for pretty cheap, because what they did was they bought them from the US, paid the import fees, and then just resold them in the EU. And that was the cheapest way to get them, which was like, after months and months and months, the price was something like 2,700 euros for a 4090 Lenovo gaming laptop, which is actually decent, but it's still really expensive. Well, I'd say it's a fair price, but the thing is that Windows laptops have their own issues. For example, fan noise, extreme power draw, like overheating issues, thermal throttling, things like that. So even if I pay like 3,000 euros for a powerful Windows laptop, it's not going to be a great experience, essentially.
This goes back to what I said earlier, where they use the same chassis for the bottom of the stack and the top of the stack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, exactly, and that's the issue. Like, it's just sad like that there is just nothing like actually good in the Windows market right now for like high-end powerful laptops, unless you're going like paying like over 5,000 to like Razer or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I decided that, okay, I need to go abroad, but I need a computer, and it's much cheaper to buy something from here than it is to buy from Japan. Well, it's really expensive here as well, but I decided that I'm going to build a desktop in the smallest case possible, and I'm going to take that desktop with me on the plane and fly to Japan. Fuck. I didn't want to say that, but
You already said it twice already. You didn't notice.
Oh, I did?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, whatever. I think I've already said it in the past anyway. So, I built a computer with a 4090 and a 7950X AMD CPU. So essentially, the best GPU and arguably the best CPU for consumer grade desktops. And I actually got it working. It's like in a tiny case, so NRP 200 Max by Cooler Master. I'll just link a picture.
And I think I just found 200p. I think this is it. You said NRP NR 200p, yes? Did I hear you wrong?
Yes.
Yeah, I found it. Okay.
NR 200p Max. Like a tiny case like this.
Yep.
And it barely fits the 4090. It's like from edge to edge. It's like, it's essentially that PC is completely full of stuff. But technically speaking, it should fit in the luggage that you put like under the plane. So I'll have to like make sure that it doesn't get like destroyed during the shipping. I have to take like the GPU probably into my backpack onto the plane, and like into the place where I'm going to be sitting and stuff like that. But I have to make sure that the PC itself is like super protected in the because they're going to be tossing around like the luggages and stuff like that with no respect to like the stuff inside. So it's pretty dangerous. But I got it working, and it's pretty nice. Except that I still wish that it was more powerful. Like it's really disappointing in the sense that it's really good, it's really powerful, but I still have like even simple editing like situations where it's lagging, in the sense that this already might be like well, it most likely is like optimization issues with like DaVinci Resolve and stuff like that. But DaVinci Resolve is like supposedly the most optimized piece of software for like general editing there is. So, and like I mentioned, there is no like proper manual caching, like direct caching for DaVinci Resolve. So I have to rely on like I have to make sure that when I edit, I have to rely on the fact that the hardware is powerful enough to play everything real time without lag. But it's just not possible yet with this build. Most of the things I can do with no lag, but for example, if I do a fade, like just a fade transition between two 4K 60 FPS clips, for some reason in certain scenarios that lags. And like, for example, some motion graphic based transition effects and things like that, most of the time they're fine, but occasionally they lag. And for example, recently I'm editing a clip for the 5 years of learning Japanese video, and it's just a 4K 60 FPS OBS recording that's like an hour long, and I'm like cutting it into smaller pieces. And okay, like when I tried like scrub through it or like jump to certain places, I sometimes need to wait like 0.5 to like 3 seconds for it to like respond. And it might not seem like a big deal, but when I'm going between like short clips, like potentially like 0.3 seconds long, and jumping between those, then every single piece of lag is going to slow me down so much that it's whenever the 5090 is going to come out, I'm probably going to instantly buy it. And yeah, I made a proxy for that clip, but the issue with proxies is that, first of all, they take time to make, and they take so much space. Like, it's an hour-long clip, and the proxy, I made it like a low-quality proxy, and it took like 1 terabyte of data from my hard drive. And imagine I have like the project itself is like has like hundreds of 4K clips and stuff like that. So I'm not going to make a proxy for every single one of those.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate. So the reason I'm telling this is not just to rant, but it's just to lay out the standards that I need for performance, essentially. Because now I want to like mention the Linux stuff. So essentially, I'm using Windows 11 right now for this hardware, and it's fine for the most part. I had to, now that I came from the macOS, I was so used to the setup I had on macOS that I was having trouble using Windows, which is pretty funny because I was so used to it before. But I'm pretty much used to it now because I set up a ton of like custom shortcuts and stuff from PowerToys, which is like a almost native program developed by Microsoft, which gives like a ton of extra features into Windows. And one of the things I'm missing is a tiling window manager for sure. Windows has some options like Komorebi, which is like developed by mostly one person, like a Windows tiling manager. I guess I can link it for people who might be curious.
I feel like I heard about this one. Yes, I do know about that one.
And I mean, it tiles. It does what it's supposed to, but I had some issues with it. Like, some things like bug out a bit. And the other thing is that even if that's fine, like if it occasionally bugs, even if that's fine, the issue is that I want to use the super key or the Windows key for my shortcuts on the tiling window manager. But it's extremely hard to do that on Windows because apparently the Windows key is disabled from the API that you can hook into, like the Windows API, that it's reserved for Windows features essentially. So
right, makes sense.
Yeah, and there is an option to like disable the built-in Windows key shortcuts, like Windows plus D, for example, that reveals the desktop. You can disable those from regedit, and I suppose like set up a Power Tools, a Power Toys shortcut for something like Control Shift Alt number 9 or something to like uh, Windows plus D. Like it's essentially a proxy shortcut. Essentially, you can do something like that. I think because if when I tried that, I think it was broken. Like I still couldn't get it working properly, and it's just too much trouble for it to be worth it. And even if like I do get it working, I'm sure that it's not going to be like the perfect experience anyway, because of the bugs and stuff like that. So essentially, what I'm trying to say is that even though everything works what I need on Windows right now, it could be even better if I could do like make it exactly how I want it.
If you had
to.
customization control that wasn't locked behind
Yes.
registry edits and other fiddling around
Yeah.
that might just break with a Windows update.
Exactly. And if I ever need to, like, for example, I bought a faster SSD, but I have Linux on it currently. But like, if I wanted to put my Windows onto that faster SSD, I would have to do all of those customizations again, from what I understand. And that's kind of a pain and things like that. Because I can't just like copy paste a config file. It's like a ton of stuff that I do in reg edits and stuff like that. So I decided that it would be fun to try Linux again, because I now have new hardware that is perhaps better supported than my previous hardware was. Linux has probably evolved since the last time, like Wayland and stuff like that. And I always want to go back to Linux just to like try it out and stuff. It's just fun, essentially. So I wanted to try it again, and what I decided to start with was, once again, Ubuntu, which everyone hates. And the reason why was because the 23.10 looked really nice. I just genuinely think that it looks really good, personally. So I decided to try installing that onto the new SSD I bought. And by the way, I had to, like, because this PC is so small, I had to remove the graphics card and stuff like that to install the SSD. But removing the graphics card is so hard, and putting it back is so hard, because it barely fits. Like, I have to like push the cables in a certain way and like put quite a lot of force for it to actually close and stuff like that. So that was pretty annoying. But I installed Ubuntu on it, or rather, I tried to install Ubuntu on it, but came out that for the RTX 4090, it doesn't boot into the installer with an RTX 4090 because the card is too new or something. And finally, I got it working after putting into safe graphics mode multiple times, and it finally worked at one point. And I installed it.
I would have thought by now 23.10 would be fine, but maybe. Wait. Maybe. I didn't. Yeah, it would have made sense if you're still on 22.04. That I could understand, but the fact that they haven't updated their drivers enough for that.
Yeah, there was like I'll get my phone. I can even like send a screenshot of the issue. I googled it, and it was like really common. Maybe I can just Google it.
Yeah, if you can find the link that you used, I definitely want to see it. I'm not surprised that it's like that, because Ubuntu does tend to move fairly slowly, like fairly conservative changes. But I would have thought by now, surely.
I think it was this issue. There were multiple ones like that. For some of them weren't even for the 4090, but it was the unknown chipset error. Essentially, when I tried putting into the installer, it was just like it gave me that error and nothing happened. I have it all recorded as well, because I wanted to like potentially make the second part for the video, for like a part 2 Linux challenge video.
Wait, so it was trying
I
to
guess
use Novo. Oh, why?
Yeah.
What? Why was
I can
it
even
doing
send
that?
the picture.
I'm so wait. I'm so confused why it tried. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Why the hell is it trying to use Novo? That barely works with old GPU. Like what? I had a
Novo is like, is
um
it like the open source version of
yeah
NVIDIA?
yeah
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's the open source drivers. I had one of the developers on recently. Um, they are in the process of supporting. I think they're working on the 30 series right now, but there's a lot of firmware issues. NVIDIA isn't really working super closely with them, so it's a
Yeah,
lot of
probably.
there's a lot of reverse engineering stuff they have to do. Um, I think with an upcoming version of the kernel, it should be better, but you wouldn't be seeing that in Ubuntu until 24.04 anyway.
Yeah. And well, it was like right off the bat, that seemed like a pretty bad omen,
Mhm.
essentially. But luckily I got it like installed when I went to Safe Graphics.
Mhm.
Um, and everything was really nice. I really liked the default appearance if
Mhm.
of Ubuntu. Like all the fonts and stuff like that on my 4K monitor were like really nice. And I'll be honest, I actually like GNOME quite a lot, especially with the Ubuntu skin
Mhm.
and the small customizations that they've made. But then I started having like massive graphical bugs. Like I think I messaged you and sent you some of the like
You did send me
images
something.
before.
Yes.
Um,
Where is it? Is it that one? Wait, six. Is it the video you
yeah, I
sent? Oh,
replied to it. Yeah.
okay. Ah, yep, it is. Can I open this in a thing? No. Let's download the video. Oh, God. Okay, you do it like
I think I
this.
sent multiple. These are a
Yeah.
bit hard to see, but I had like
Ah, yep,
extremely
yep,
like
yep.
apparent ones.
Okay, here we go. Let's open that in my browser. Yeah, that'll work. That there. Here we go. Okay, okay, perfect. So, for anyone just listening, wait, what's happening this one? Oh,
One was after I installed the new driver, but one was like before that.
I might be
But
looking
I
at that
had
one.
like
That would explain why I'm confused why nothing's happening.
really bad ones, and I have videos of them, but I didn't send them.
Ah, here we go.
Um,
Yep, the other one, there's like this clear line flickering, and then
yeah,
it just goes
but
away.
I have like other clips when it's like huge, massive black boxes over like the browser and stuff like that, and
Mm-mm.
it's like it's essentially like it looks completely broken.
Mm-mm.
And then I had like I don't remember if this was on. I think this was on X11 when I these clips I sent
Mm-hmm.
on Wayland. I had some other issue. I think I wrote what happened. Okay. I did send you the video with the black boxes. It was the first. It was the first video.
Oh,
I actually sent three
I missed that
videos.
one. Okay, yep. Here we go. That one. Put that there. Ah, yep. Okay, yep, that's definitely the one I remember originally then. Cool.
Yeah, I had issues like this,
So for everyone
and
just listening, there's like a giant black line just in the middle of the screen. It sometimes goes away, but then comes back a couple of seconds later.
yeah, and this is X11, I
Mhm.
think.
Ah, yeah, by default,
And
it still uses X11. No, wait. Hold on.
uh,
Wait, no.
I
No, on
think you
NVIDIA,
want
it
to.
uses... NVIDIA, I think it might default to X11? I don't remember. Wait.
I don't exactly remember, but both were installed. Wayland and X11 were
Mhm.
both like by default installed options, essentially,
Yeah, they are definitely both still
on
available.
Ubuntu. And on Wayland, I had some other issue. On Wayland, my Firefox like had extremely bad performance on Ubuntu. Like it essentially like
Yeah.
crashed. It got really laggy and crashed when I was scrolling like heavier sites, for example, Pinterest or something like that.
Mhm.
So I tried using X11, and X11 had those graphical bugs. And long story short, I decided to try i3 instead of GNOME because of those issues. And it worked fine for the most part there. And I don't remember what I was doing. I was customizing multiple things, and eventually I was having some issue that I thought that would maybe be like I installed the newest NVIDIA driver that isn't even like an option in by default in Ubuntu. So I installed 5.4.5 instead of 5.3.5, and it worked for the most part. But I had some issues, and I decided that maybe if I downgrade the driver, then it's going to be fine again. So I went to the Ubuntu has this app called Additional Software and Drivers or something like that, and you can install NVIDIA drivers from there. And so I had 5.4.5 selected, and I selected 5.3.1 to downgrade. So I hit install, and it said installation successful, and I restarted my PC, and suddenly it looked like I had no drivers at all. And I mean, they were completely gone. Like even though it said installation successful, like the drivers were completely gone. But not a big deal, right? I mean, I can just install them again. But the issue is that my network driver was also gone. I had no internet, essentially, with a cable. And that is also a common issue, apparently.
Is it? What is going on over on Ubuntu?
I'll Google it. like I can do a screenshot.
Yeah, thanks.
It's apparently really common. And like one of the fixes was to run a like older kernel and then try again. But I tried, and I think from the boot menu when you first boot into the computer, but that didn't like change anything for me. So I just I wiped everything and I installed Fedora 39. Or I installed Nobara, I think, which is like Fedora 38, but it has like a ton of like NVIDIA drivers and DaVinci Resolve like fixes by default and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's Glorious Eggroll's project.
Yeah, it was pretty nice. Like it really does like work in the sense that I can install DaVinci Resolve really easily, and NVIDIA drivers are pretty much installed by default and stuff like that. But that one had the same issue as it had the same graphical issue on GNOME that I had, like I showed before. Some things were better though, but it also had like my microphone wasn't working at all. And long story short, I got that fixed by installing the newest ALSA drivers. So I don't know what ALSA what it was again, but essentially I had to like research quite a bit and install newer ALSA drivers manually. And after that, I got my microphone working, and everything seemed pretty good, except DaVinci Resolve didn't record audio, which is probably just another issue with that DaVinci Resolve has on Linux, because it's not like super properly supported.
Yeah.
And then I also couldn't get Japanese input with ANTI working at all with Nobara for some reason, even though I got it working on Ubuntu and Fedora in some like other boot I tried before. And I just played around with i3 again for a while, and I tried even like putting XFCE to combine it with i3 and stuff like that. But like I don't remember exactly what issue I had, because I had so many like different things. So eventually I just wiped it again, and I tried XFCE Fedora spin by default. Then I wiped that again, and now I am at just the Fedora 39 workstation, like the default system essentially. And everything like now Wayland, when I go to Wayland, it's super nice. It's like the browser is extremely performant. I really like it. GNOME is also quite nice. I mean, it doesn't have the styling that Ubuntu did, but I still like it. But the issue with Wayland is that on Fedora that I experienced was that all ex-Wayland applications, I think, are extremely laggy. So, for example, Discord. When I try typing on Discord, it's like some characters just essentially the input is lagging, and sometimes like what I'm typing isn't like some letters will just not get typed. Or for example, Visual Studio Code. When I try using that, like it's unusable because I can't properly type essentially, and that's apparently quite common as well.
It shouldn't be. That bug's supposed to be fixed. It's supposed to be fixed 2 years ago. There was
when I
a problem
Googled
with
it,
X-Whale and NVIDIA for a while where they just were not GPU accelerated. I don't know how that's happening again. Maybe it's a 4090 thing. It very well could be 40, because I know when the 4090 came out, it wasn't super well supported even with like the proprietary drivers. I'm not sure because there's not like a massive pool of people running 4090s on Linux.
Yeah, like I definitely heard that 4090 had some problems like a long time ago, but like apparently this issue is like people say that it's a NVIDIA thing essentially. This is 6 months ago. Those comments there, the top comments and stuff like that. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's a proper fix to this, unfortunately.
Discord says on Wayland, but the problem goes away if I have OBS open. What? Okay, that's. I fixed by clearing all notifications within Discord with marked as red thing. As Linus Torvald said, "F you, NVIDIA."
Yeah, like
I think everything comes back to NVIDIA. That's just the sad state of things.
Yeah, like it's really unfortunate. Like I even thought about like buying an AMD card, like the what was it, like 9000 XDX or something like that, the most powerful one essentially.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, I need to buy a 49. Like I need. Like I don't mind buying an extra card, even if it's just for like the video for trying out Linux or something like that. But the issue is that hold on, I'll Google this.
I know.
Okay, well, if you already know, then it's like DaVinci Resolve is apparently the only thing on AMD that's like unusable. Like I found this thread, so it's like, okay, nothing works on NVIDIA except DaVinci Resolve, and everything works on AMD except DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah, so with DaVinci, my understanding with AMD cards is you need to be running the Pro drivers, but the Pro drivers are completely useless for anything outside of DaVinci. But even then, the OpenCL implementation is just not good. There is a project called RustyCL being worked on right now that is going to be a part of the open source AMD drivers. It's not done yet, but I would imagine within maybe like a year or so, it's probably going to be in a good state. Right now, you can use it and DaVinci will open, but you're not going to get performance from it that's usable.
Yeah, and that kind of sucks because, like I said before, like the reason I ranted so long about the performance thing is that I genuinely need all the performance I can get. So even if AMD worked perfectly fine, it's still going to be a sacrifice because the 4090 is just much more powerful in like GPU effects, essentially.
Yeah.
In DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, even that's not a proper choice, it seems, because like DaVinci Resolve and AMD aren't, on Linux getting along too well, it seems.
No.
So it's really like I want to use Linux, but I'm really like stuck between a rock and a hard place in a way. So okay, I can use X11, and let's say I use something that isn't GNOME, so i3, for example. So now I don't have those flickering bugs. Firefox still has like screen tearing issues for some reason, and many applications like Discord as well. I have like screen screen tearing issues even on X11.
X11, yeah, that's gonna happen. There is
Yeah.
actually no, I don't. Now that I think about it, I don't know if there is a way to disable screen tearing. I don't know if it worked with NVIDIA.
Yeah. I do remember something when I googled it myself as well, but it was like it was something like force no freeze. I don't know what it was called, but
It's something
essentially,
like that.
yeah. And people said that yes, it works, but you're going to have other issues when you do that, essentially, and just use Wayland and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Okay, I can live with the screen tearing. I mean, if I really want to.
Mhm.
But then it's like I'm having issues with like this is all customizable. I'm sure if I put another like multiple hundred hours of into like perhaps learning different window managers and stuff like that as well. But like so my first of all, scaling, like fractional scaling and stuff like that. I have a 4K, what is it, 29-inch display, and without scaling, it's kind of unusable. And yeah, on X11, you have essentially a choice. For example, on GNOME, you have a choice between 100% and 200%.
Yeah.
So too small or too big.
Mm-hmm.
On Wayland, you have fractional scaling, but it had its own issues. Like some applications were just completely blurry when I did that. Like it really looked really JPEG'd.
You finish what you're saying, and I can explain why the fractional scaling's a mess.
Okay, so what essentially it's like if I use fractional scaling on Wayland, first of all, I can't use Wayland. Seemingly, I actually had issues with DaVinci Resolve on Wayland as well. So Wayland is completely out of the question for me, it seems, unfortunately. And if I use fractional scaling on Wayland, then some applications are like completely blurry. And so the best option I found was on GNOME. I think there is an option for increasing the font scaling that sort of works like fractional scaling in a way. Like it's similar, but it's not completely the same. And on on i3, the issue is that like my main monitor is like scaled in an okay fashion, but my secondary monitor is like it looks like it's a 2.5K display, but it looks like 1080p in terms of scaling. Like everything is too big. And I've seen some like issues, like potential fixes when you like change the DPI option for true render and stuff like that. But it's like I haven't gotten far enough for everything like that to be solved yet. And it's like like I'm really trying to use Linux, but at the back of my head, I'm feeling like, holy shit, I should actually just get some work done. Like I've already spent like 100 hours on this, and how much time do I have to spend to get it like working in a nice state in which I'm happy with? Which I mean, it can be fine in the sense that maybe in the future it's like I'll save a lot of time by or like be more motivated to do work if my setup is perfect in the sense that my shortcuts and everything work exactly how I want to. But at the same time, it's like it's really conflicting. It's really conflicting.
See, this is why I made a YouTube channel where I try to get things working, so I can pretend like I'm being productive by messing around with Linux.
Dude, like I really thought about that. Like the excuse I have is that if I make the second Linux challenge video, the previous one got quite a lot of views, so maybe I'm being productive if I'm doing this right now.
Yeah. So, okay, the fractional scaling thing, because this has been one of my pet problems for a while. Okay, so GNOME does support fractional scaling. Right now, it is hidden behind an environment variable because it's very experimental and kind of a mess. So, the Wayland blurriness, there is a good reason for that. it's not actually fractional scaling. So it's taken a long time to convince the developers that fractional scaling is a good thing. There is giant GitLab threads arguing with the developers that fractional scaling is a good thing, and major developers on the project being like, no one wants fractional scaling. This is impossible to do. How could anyone possibly do this? So the way... Okay. There's two problems here. Problem number one. On Wayland, there is no way to share the metadata for the scale with the application. So there is a protocol that's in progress to share that data. Before that happens, though, there is another method that is being done. So whilst you can't tell the application to scale properly, what they do is scale to the next nearest integer. So if say you want to do a 1.5 times scale, it'll scale up to two times, and then raster scale it down. So what you get is incredibly blurry applications.
Yeah. The thing is that I think macOS does something similar in the sense that, for example, when I have a 4K display on macOS, then when I have it set to, I think 150%, they don't have like percentages in macOS. They have just like pictures that you choose from. And when I, for example, open OBS, then the screen, like I have the options to choose resolutions, right? That I want to record at. Then what it does is that it scales it up to 2 times as well. So it's like I don't know, like over 5,000 resolution or something like that. And then it scales it back down to, I don't know if it's 2K or 4K then like internally. But I guess they do something different because on macOS, nothing is blurry. Like okay, there's like a little bit of like when you get like really close to the monitor, for example, text does look a little bit like it's not like blurry or smudgy, but there's like not something going on essentially that isn't going on scaling. But overall, it looks totally fine. Like applications and stuff aren't blurry, like inherently. But I'm not really sure what Linux is doing, or like Wayland is doing differently. But I guess raster. You said raster.
Yeah, my understanding is doing a raster scale back down.
Yeah.
I imagine macOS would probably do it like filling in the gaps in places and doing some anti-aliasing or something to make things look a bit nicer.
Oh yeah, they probably don't have like they probably have much more like the Quartz or whatever their Windows server is probably has all of those things like built in from the beginning or something like that.
Yeah. Fractional scaling's a mess. There's also the problem that GNOME does technically support fractional scaling now, but the toolkit doesn't. So they actually do support the protocol, but it's not actually going to be used until GTK 5 comes out, which could be, I don't know, 5 years from now? Sometime in the future, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
It's unfortunate. Like, it's really like, I think, like, people who, like, I'm not that well versed into what the actual, like, turf wars is between, like, the fractional scaling and no fractional scaling. But if you have a monitor that's 4K and, like, rather small, like 29 or 27 inches, then it's really unpleasant to use either 100 or 200%. So
yeah,
and I imagine it can be even worse on laptops.
Oh no, it's unusable on a laptop. I've tried to use a 1440p laptop, and I can't even use that. Especially if you got like a 13-inch laptop. Like 1080p is hard enough to deal with on a 13-inch.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I have specifically avoided buying 4K displays. Like I could get one, I could get it working, but I just don't want to deal with it right now. And like fractional scaling's bad enough on Windows, let alone dealing with it on Linux.
I'm actually using fractional scaling on Windows right now, and I can say like my experience is like it's completely fine, except there are certain like dialogues, like certain like old installed screens, for example,
Yeah.
um, that have text which is blurry, but like
Yep.
everything is fine except for those like specific dialogues from
Mm.
like old installers or something like that.
Mm.
That's the experience I'm having on Windows with scaling.
My understanding with the old installers is they just weren't built around like going over a certain resolution.
Yeah, it's definitely something I like noticed when I started using 4K on Windows.
Like if you go back and you boot up something like EverQuest, for example, like that game is just not going to work on a 1080p display. Like things are just it was designed around a way lower resolution, and it's going to be the same thing with those dialogues as well.
Uh, I see. Yeah, like I think maybe Windows 11 does it a bit better because Windows 10. I remember when I got this monitor before this new computer, so I tried it a bit on Windows 10 on my old computer as well, and it looked worse there. Like a lot of things were really messy, but on Windows 11, it looks like most of the stuff, like the file explorer and stuff, handle it like natively in a sense, but yeah, the installation dialogues and stuff like that do get
Yeah.
pretty blurry sometimes.
I haven't messed around with 11. Like I stopped using Windows back when 10 came out, so I really don't have any context for like what the experience is like now. So I would hope it's gotten better. But what has been your general experience with 11?
Uh, yeah. So, when I got started, I remember that I didn't like it, and it wasn't like a lot of people. When there's something new, they're always like, "Ah, this sucks."
Yep.
Like, but it's always like that with Windows Vista and whatever as well. But overall, things get better. Like, but I had to use like a lot of customization to get it working the way I like it right now. For example, the new taskbar in Windows 11, I don't like. So apparently, there's some kind of a regedit hack once again that once you enable, you get the old taskbar from Windows 10 back. Or what, it was like a third-party script or something like that that has like customization for it. The reason I didn't like the Windows 11 one was because, for example, you cannot separate applications from like into separate tabs. So, for example, if you have like 5 Firefox windows open, I want all of them to be separate on the taskbar, so I can see exactly what is where. Or, for example, but you can't do that on 11. It's not a feature yet. They might implement it in the future, but it doesn't really matter now that I have the old taskbar once again. Overall, other than that, there were some other things that were annoying as well, I think, but I think it's definitely an improvement in the sense that you have just more modern things. Like Windows 10 is starting to look kind of antiquated, I'm not gonna lie, like in some ways. So I think it's fine for the most part when you customize it a little bit. Some things are a bit annoying, like when I try to move a window from one screen to another. Some applications like get stuck really badly in the like between two monitors until I like force it to the other one. Like Windows 10 did it better somehow. Uh, I actually kind of like the tiling feature that you can like grab a window and drag it up to the top to like have a bunch of different tiling options and stuff like that. But if it was just a tiling window manager, I mean, it wouldn't matter much. But there isn't that much of a difference other than those small things, to be honest, between 10 and 11.
You mentioned tiling window managers a couple of times. When did you first try one out, and why? Like, what about tilers appealed to you?
So, like I mentioned, well, that was also my first time. Like I mentioned, the reason I started using a tiling window manager was because of macOS. Like the window management in macOS just wasn't good enough for me. Like even with the third-party applications, such as things that try to mimic the Windows style application snapping.
Mm-hmm.
They're like that, but they're a bit less featured, bit less less rich compared to the Windows experience or something like GNOME and a bunch of other things as well. So the window management stuff was just really bothering me with macOS because it really like made using the computer difficult. So I discovered that the creator of Osu was using macOS in his live streams, and he was using this tiling window manager called Yabai, and he had, like his setup looked like completely different from default macOS because he had like some kind of a like a bar, like the polybar type things on macOS, and then the tiling window manager and a bunch of shortcuts and stuff like that. And that gave me like some hope that I might be actually able to use macOS. And I tried out the Yabai window manager, which is apparently similar to i3, but there are some differences which I noticed. But I actually really liked it in the sense that it took me some time to get used to it. But after I did, it genuinely was like really nice to have like when I open a browser or some application that it full screens, and when I open a new tab or detach a tab or something like that, that it put it side by side and stuff like that. I don't have to. I like the automatic nature of it, and it's just easier to use a computer when it's when it does things like that automatically. And once you get used to it, it's hard to go back to a floating style window manager for sure.
I keep telling people this, like, no, tiling's not that great. Try it.
Yes, it's something you have to try.
Yeah.
Because like I was also like, before I was essentially forced to use a tiling window manager, I was also like when I saw those screenshots and stuff like that, there's this you have the Unix porn subreddit, right? And then it's like you have a counter culture subreddit to that, which is productivity. I don't know if it was something like usability porn or something like that, which was supposedly the same thing, except it's supposed to be more usable. And when I looked at it, it was like, what is the difference? Both of them are just, you have no buttons on the windows and stuff like that. It's like, it feels so like these setups seem so unfunctional to me. And tiling window managers felt like, okay, they're probably nice, but they seem so complicated. And I know that I need to use a floating type windows in these scenarios and stuff like that. So it's probably not worth it for me. But once I actually tried it, then there's genuinely nothing to lose, like unless you need to have like certain features from desktop environments that you lose if you use a window manager that doesn't have those features. So what really helped me was that when I installed Yabai on macOS, everything was still exactly the same as on default macOS, except that it just tiled. So I still have the dock, I still have all the buttons on the windows, all of the default shortcuts still work for the most part, so everything is exactly the same, except I can now use a few shortcuts to, control the tiling, and things tile out automatically. In that in that scenario, there truly is nothing to lose. There's only to gain from having a tiling window manager. And once I got used to it, it's like, it's so easy to use as well. Like, it's just like, for example, for resizing a window, I just use the super key plus WASD. It's like, it can't get any easier than that, essentially.
Oftentimes I still use my mouse to resize, but like
having
the hotkeys there are nice as well.
Yeah, like I still use my mouse a ton. Like like one of those things which people are scared about is that I want to use my mouse, but you can still use your mouse. Like, I use my mouse just as much as I did before, in a way, because, for example, when I do video editing, I need to use my mouse like all the time. So But even if I use my mouse, if I have my hand on the mouse, I can, like I said, my Windows shortcuts are on WASD. My other hand is still on my keyboard, so I can use my mouse and the tiler in conjunction. So it's like best of both worlds, essentially. I don't have to use my mouse to move windows around or to like resize windows, even though I still do that sometimes, because like I don't always have my hand on my keyboard. For example, I might be drinking water with my keyboard hand and moving things around with my mouse hand, and so on. So like you can still use your mouse just as much as before, even more in some ways, because it's even going to be easier to use your mouse when you can like, change the position of two windows just by dragging one window on top of the other, and then they automatically switch positions and stuff like that.
Yeah. There is this weird, I guess you would call it like tiling purism thing, and I guess it kind of comes from it sort of comes from like the people who use Vim as well, where everything has to be a keybind. You have to use your mouse as little as possible. Never take your hands off the home row, sort of thing. When I got out of that mindset, I started finding tilers like way more useful. One thing I want to ask is, so with your buy, does it do like dynamic tiling, or is it like i3 where it's manual, where you have to like pick the direction the split is going to happen?
It's dynamic. It's like I think it's called the golden ratio tiling.
Yeah, okay.
It's
That's
like
just the default that everything uses if it does dynamic.
Yeah. I just saw it in like I think Awesome WM as well, which is actually something I tried before trying i3, but it was like there was like something in Awesome that that set me off. I think it was
writing Lua code. If you like writing Lua, Awesome's great.
Yeah, the config was pretty crazy. Like, I thought it was in C# at first, or at least I heard something like that.
That'd be nice. That'd be nice and easy to configure. Nope, it's Lua. And I don't know Lua, so it's an experience to play around with it. If I was gonna jump to another one, I'd probably go to something like I'm forgetting the name now. Not Xmonad. Qtile. Qtile you configure with Python, which I find a lot easier to work with.
I did hear about that. Like, I watched a few days ago. I watched a video by that one guy who makes videos about tiling window managers a lot. All the names are so similar. I don't remember what it was. The Linux cast, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
Let me just make sure that it isn't someone else.
Yeah, Matt did do a video on Qtile.
Yeah. It was a video by him that talked about customizing things in Python, and I'm very well versed in Python, but for me, I'm at the point where I don't really see why I need to write custom stuff for tiling window managers yet myself, even though that would be nice. But like, just to go back a bit, one thing about Awesome WM which made me switch away was that, well, first of all, it was a bit complicated at first, but there was something like, I don't remember what command it was. I think it was, I wanted to move a window up. So let's say I have two windows, or like one window on the left, like from top to bottom, and then two windows stacked on top of each other on the right. And I wanted to move the bottom window up to where the upmost position. But I think when I Googled it, there was no command for it. And when I don't remember if it was that exactly or if it was something else, but like the response was something like, well, it's technically possible if you use this third-party script for it, or something like that. And then I was like, just like, okay.
Maybe you're explaining it weirdly, because I've got a hotkey to do that, no problem. Maybe I am doing something different.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like that, and I was surprised that I couldn't, like, maybe it was something that like some that I can do it outside of an adjustment mode or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but point is that there was something that was a bit, confusing at first. So I decided to try i3 because I actually had tried it I had already tried it a long time ago, but like back when I before I knew what tiling window managers were, I just saw i3 mentioned a lot, so I just installed it, and I couldn't really do anything on it because I hadn't no clue what to expect. I thought it was just another desktop environment. So I decided to try i3, and that worked pretty similar to Yabai in terms of configuration, for example, but it didn't have that dynamic tiling thing.
Yeah, that's
it's
my problem with i3.
Manual.
There is scripts to deal with that, like auto. What is it called? i3 auto. What the hell is it called? Auto.
Yeah, something like that.
Auto type.
Yeah. It's I actually haven't minded it that much because I can somewhat handle it, like the manual tilingness. It hasn't bothered me too much, but something that did bother me was that when I want to resize windows, it's a bit unintuitive. It was like if I try to resize a window to the left, then I press super plus D.
Yeah.
But in some scenarios, it resized window. If the window is in the middle, it resizes the window like both ways. It resizes it both to the left and to the right. And the shortcuts are they're like upside down sometimes, like reversed depending on where I am. So I just used like a script by someone that made it work exactly like I wanted, exactly like it worked on Yabai as well. So luckily, I was able to solve that with a script. Also, related to that, as well as what you mentioned before, like the tiling, what was it? The people who tiling purism. There was something like I wanted to have one workspace that was always floating because there was an application or something that broke with the automatic tiling at startup. So I wanted to make a space that's entirely floating, and I was surprised to see like there were so many comments and responses which were like, you shouldn't do that. This is a tiling window manager. You shouldn't have floating windows. Like why do you have floating? Why do you want a floating workspace? This is not like this is not per the tiling window manager paradigm rulebook or whatever. Like that was a bit surprising to see. I mean, luckily I was able to do it, but yeah, I guess some people are like that in terms of the tiling stuff. But speaking of like no mouse, the macOS, the macOS tiler, the person stream I found it in, the Peppy stream, the creator of also stream, he actually doesn't use a mouse. Like he has like some kind of software that he controls with the keyboard that is essentially a virtual mouse that you have like a mouse cursor on the screen and then you move it around with the arrow keys, and like it's fine because he, I suppose, doesn't want to move his hands at all because he has like a really small keyboard as well that he never moves his wrists into a different position. But like when I looked at the way he used it, it seemed so like it seemed pretty painful because he was like developing the game also, and it has like those sliders and like settings menus and stuff like that, and he went through all of those with the virtual mouse essentially. And like at that point, I'd personally rather just use a mouse, but who knows, maybe it's something that you got to try once again, like the same way with tiling. Who knows?
My understanding is that software is sort of, it's intended as like an accessibility thing for people that physically cannot use a mouse. But I guess if it works and you just want to use it, I'm not going to stop you. Like it's cool that you've made it work. I don't know how the hell you test also using that.
For video editing, it will be unusable though. Like the amount of like mouse movements and like I'm just constantly jumping across my screen and using different menus and stuff like that with my mouse. So it's essentially impossible to edit a video, like a huge video with like a ton of like footage assets and effects and stuff without a mouse. So, but luckily, you can still use a mouse with a tiling window manager. So that's nice.
Yep, absolutely. Just use the thing you're comfortable with.
Yeah. Or, step out of your comfort zone and try a tiling window manager. And if you don't like it, then you can always, move back. But like some more stuff on the Linux experience, like I have not tried editing a video yet. I feel like it's possible to make an entire full high quality video on Linux right now. I'd have to use a different program for recording my voice because it doesn't seem to work on Linux in DaVinci Resolve, even though it should work. And I don't know what other features there are that might not work, because last time I tried, like a few years ago, I couldn't get the time adjustment menu, like speeding up or slowing down clips. I couldn't get that menu working in Linux for some reason, which was, already unusable essentially. But right now, that worked, and I was able to render the video that, like, huge projects that I had made. I was able to render them in Linux, and I didn't have any problems after, I got installed the fonts and stuff like that. So that's really nice. I'm really glad about that, because it already means that technically speaking, Linux is usable. Too bad that my current Fedora install was the first one where I couldn't get DaVinci Resolve installed at all. Well, I did get it installed, but the issue is that when I launch it, it says like GPU not detected or something like that. And I don't know why, because it worked. I was able to get it working on XFCE version of Fedora and, Ubuntu, and Nobara works out of the box essentially, but all these other distros. But for some reason, the Fedora one, I couldn't get it working. Or, well, I haven't looked into it more than that right now. But in terms of the performance, this is hard to say, because I have a much faster SSD in the Linux install compared to my Windows install. So it should be faster by default. And unfortunately, on Wayland, when I was able to use it, because it sometimes didn't even start up on Wayland, but I was able to get it working at one point on Wayland. And on Wayland, the performance was much worse. It was like the render time was like at least 50% worse compared to X11. And compared to Windows, the performance was slightly worse for the most part. But when I rendered a video on i3, so it's as lightweight as it gets, then it was a little bit faster. And I mean, it's hard to tell because I'm using a faster SSD. Like, I don't know how much it impacts it, but essentially the performance is up to par. So that's nice, I suppose, or if not a little bit faster. But I've tried some other things as well, and like, this is not like Linux fault. I'm not trying to, diss Linux or anything. But if anything, this is NVIDIA's fault. But like a lot of things, like I always say that people say that, Linux is faster than Windows, which on the kernel level is probably true. I don't know. And maybe for older computers that can't handle a lot of background tasks or have, low RAM or something. But like when I use Linux, it's for the most part, I have to accept that most likely things aren't as optimized as they would be on, the place where all the optimizations go to, aka Windows, like especially on NVIDIA and stuff like that. So it's a really conflicting experience in a way, but I'm really hopeful in the sense that the performance was decent if I got everything working right. And right now I'm still having a lot of issues, like the GNOME is having those graphical issues on X11. Wayland is unusable, unfortunately, and i3 has its own, things, like I mentioned, with like the scaling stuff and my mouse DPI being inconsistent between displays and stuff like that. So there's a lot of configuration I need to do, but maybe it's possible that one day I could daily drive Linux like completely fine. If NVIDIA will fix their stuff, then it would already be possible.
Have you considered trying out KDE just to see if it's going to be a different experience?
Yeah, that's the one thing I haven't tried yet. Like, I would definitely like to try KDE as well, because maybe it doesn't have that flickering issue that X11 has on GNOME. And maybe it's a bit more customizable.
It's definitely more customizable, that's for sure.
Okay, that's good, because, well, one thing is why I haven't tried it yet is that I think KDE Plasma 6 is going to be releasing soon.
February 28th, I want to say.
Okay, so I guess there's still a few months to go, but
yeah,
I guess I can
right
try
now.
5. I've actually never liked KDE for some reason though, like just aesthetically speaking, and maybe because like when I installed it like back in the day, then there's like you have the KDE desktop environment, and then you have like the KDE suite, I think, which has like all those applications and stuff like that. And you know, when I was like when trying out things for the first time, then like all the way back in like 2018 or something, then I remember when I installed KDE, I installed like the full version, so it installed like all the applications and stuff I didn't need, and stuff like that. And I don't know, like design wise, it looks kind of like it's not my cup of tea in a way, but maybe KDE 6 is going to be different.
It is going to be what KDE is right now in a different toolkit. It is a very evolutionary upgrade, not revolutionary.
Ah, I see. Is it like better performance, or is it like? I guess I did see that it has like new features, like in terms of like workflow, at least.
Yeah, so it's getting a lot more like features. It's like the thing that's not changing really is the design. Like they're sort of sitting with this design for now. There's a couple of things like floating taskbars and things like that are being done. But the general like look of it is still going to be pretty much the same. The other thing that's happening with Plasma 6 or KDE 6 is better Wayland support. That's one of their big things they're working on. They are moving towards like making Wayland the default. Fedora, for example, is actually not shipping X11 KDE. They're only going to ship the Wayland version.
Yeah, I actually watched the video about that, but I guess some people got quite upset about that.
Yeah.
But can't you just like install X11 manually after like installing?
Think they are not going to they're not actually going to be building the X11 side when they compile it. I'm not entirely sure what Neil's doing for it. I think it's going to be a bit of a mess. But we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I guess. But I guess I'll give that a try as well, and see how that is. Because one of the things that I would really like is actually I like the environment I had in the end with macOS, in the sense that I have a tiling window manager, but I have the entire OS alongside. So essentially, imagine you have GNOME and with built-in tiling window manager support, essentially. Well, you have PopShell for that. I even tried that again today. But PopShell has like issues in the sense that it's not very customizable right now. So, for example, you cannot resize windows without entering the adjustment mode, which is like, so if you want to resize a window, you have to first, hit super plus enter, then you have to resize it, and then you hit enter again or something to apply it, essentially. And you can't rebind it, but you might be able to in the future when PopOS Cosmic comes out or something like that.
So, I am worried about the PopShell extension because Cosmic is its own standalone thing. So I I would imagine they're going to just abandon the code base. So
Yeah, that's
maybe
pretty
some
likely.
maybe someone like forks it and then keeps maintaining it. But we'll have to. Yeah, the Cosmic's still a while away. For now, it's fine. But I'm definitely curious to see what happens when they do drop it. As for the KDE side, there is also an extension over there as well. Previously it was Bismuth, the developer of that, I don't know, vanished. And there's a fork of it now called Polonium, which is the exact same thing. It's just actually working.
Oh, well, if it works, then it might be really nice, and I'll most likely try it out because I'll try out KDE and then
Just send
try
you.
that Tyler as well.
Here we go. There it is.
Yay. Okay. Last commits last month ago. Well, that's nice. Because like there are like
yeah.
GNOME, like some i3 plus GNOME combinations, and I think it was. I just looked it up yesterday. I forgot what it was called, but essentially you have like distros in a way that are like i3 plus GNOME combined and stuff like that. But most of them are like sort of abandoned, seemingly. So that's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, they used to make it a lot. I don't even know if you can change out the window manager nowadays. But you used to be able to completely remove Mutter and just replace it with i3 like you can on XFCE.
I see.
Yeah, back in the early days, you could swap in a project called Compiz, which I don't know if you know that one.
It's I've only heard it in the context of it being a compositor. I think that people use for i3, or maybe that was something else.
Yeah, so Compiz was a compositor window manager combined together.
No.
And the reason people liked it was this effect called the cube.
Nice.
So that was your like workspace switcher. You would like spin a cube.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool if I'd have that right now. Yeah, like I remember like those old like Linux customization videos and stuff like that always had like some crazy animations and stuff like that.
Yeah. A lot of that was probably Compiz.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
A lot of those, I think the cube does. Yeah, the cube just got fixed in KDE, so you actually can use it there as well.
That's nice. Gonna use the
There's
cube
like
on
3
KDE.
users who were angry when the cube got broken. But
Gotta fix that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I guess on i3 most of the stuff works, but yeah, like I said, I have some functionality issues. But the other thing is also that like one of the reasons why I actually like having a desktop environment inside my tiling window manager, or like the other way around, is that I use so much. I use screen recordings a lot in my videos, and screenshots of windows and stuff like that in my videos, and I want them to be aesthetical in the sense that I want fonts to be really nice. I want the them to be sharp and so on, and the window decorations and stuff like that to be nice. And I'm sure I can customize it, like Rice, the i3 setup as well. But I'm happy with the way GNOME looks, essentially, especially on like Ubuntu and stuff and like that. But so it would already be ready to go if I could like use GNOME perfectly and have the tiling window manager stuff working as well. Then it would already be like I'd be satisfied with that already. But I guess if I want to get i3 working perfectly as well, then I still have to do quite a lot of work if I want to. Yeah.
It's very much a work in progress right now, but I know some of the GNOME devs were talking about doing native tiling. They've got sort of I guess, not prototype, more like a, how would I say it? Like a visualization of it. It's not even a tech demo. It's like they've got PowerPoint slide animations basically to demo like sort of what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I watched the video a little bit that you made on it.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, that was a while back. Yeah. We have no idea if or when it's going to happen. But I am curious to see what they end up doing with it, because that would be nice. It would be very nice to have native tiling in GNOME. I stand
yeah,
by what I said. Tiling is just, look, it's nice to have floating windows, but there is a lot of mental energy you waste worrying about where windows are placed, rearranging windows, that a tiler just, it just takes away from you, and you just don't need to think about it.
yeah. It's really something that once you try and get comfortable with, then it's like then you see so this is why people like it essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I was so happy with the way Windows handled its windows in the sense that I can send windows to different monitors and stuff like that with Windows key Shift plus arrow keys and stuff like that, and snap them into different places. But you can't use a keyboard shortcut to resize a window that has been tiled in Windows by default. You can resize the window with a rather uncomfortable shortcut key, actually, which is Alt plus Enter or something like that. Or I don't remember. I discovered it yesterday. But if you resize a window, the other windows are not going to be resized if you do it with a keyboard shortcut, is what I mean. So that's pretty annoying when you don't have native tiling in that sense. I wanted to say something else as well, but I forgot. Yeah, I forgot.
Well, we've passed the 2-hour mark anyway, so it's about time we should probably like wrap this up.
Yeah, probably. I guess as the final word on Linux for me is that I don't know if I'm going to be making a second part to my video on it, and if I'm like actually going to be trying for much longer than I currently have. But at least every time I use Linux, I know what's holding me back essentially from using it, and I can keep an eye on if those issues have been fixed or not. For example, currently it's NVIDIA drivers, and things like that. So I'm always looking forward to that.
Hopefully, I doubt it will be like this, but hopefully Nova is in a better state then. Maybe that'll do something, but Nova's hit the point now where it can play a video game at 2 FPS, which is more than 0, which is where it was at a couple of months ago.
Well, that's an infinite amount of increase, I suppose.
Yeah, but I hope the Nvidia stuff gets better, because there kind of is there is a time limit. There's an expiration date, we'll say, set on X11, because it's being maintained by Red Hat, and Red Hat is probably going to drop it sometime early 2030, which is a while away still. But when they drop it entirely from Red Hat, like from their distro, no one's gonna be maintaining Xorg anymore. So
is the reason they drop it because they are going to start using Wayland themselves, or
they've already defaulted to Wayland?
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
I remember the thing I wanted to ask as well. It was how do you change what was it? Language input layouts on your system? Like, do you use a shortcut key to like cycle between layouts, or do you have a shortcut key for a specific layout for each a specific shortcut key for each layout? I'm not even sure what layout you use though. So, for example, Japanese and English and so on.
I actually don't have something set up on my desktop right now. I had something a while back and it bugged out. When I was doing stuff, I was using FCITX at the time, and I don't remember what hotkey I had. Oh, I uninstalled it. I think I had it on like Control Space to swap, and then I was playing an MMO, and there were times where I'd press Control Space. I'd be doing like I'd be jumping and trying to use a control modifier ability, and then I'd
Yeah.
uninstall it instead of just changing the hotkey.
Nice.
Because I do most of my Japanese input on my phone.
I see.
But
Yeah.
sorry, I got sidetracked there. What was the problem you were having?
Well, I haven't mentioned it yet, but
Okay, okay.
essentially, the way I discovered was that I've always, on Windows, I have three layouts.
Mm,
So I have Estonian, English, and Japanese. And I've always cycled through them because I use all of them every day
Yep, yep.
by now, at least. And it's really annoying, especially on Windows. It was really annoying. Now it seems to be fixed somewhat, but for years and years and years, I had this. The biggest issue I've had with Windows was that for some reason it keeps adding random ass like layouts to my input list, and I don't know why it does that. I've disabled all of those I've researched this in the sense that I know that there are options that you can disable, but none of them fixed it permanently, at least. Like, for example, I'd have English, then I'd get like a secondary English layout for no reason at all. Now it seems to be okay, but it was really annoying because I was cycling through them, and then like the list got longer inconsistently. So I had wrong layouts, and I need to cycle more and stuff like that. But on macOS, when I started using Yabai, I also had this idea that what if I'd have a shortcut for each layout, a specific shortcut, which was really easy to do with this program called Kava on macOS. I guess I'll link it in the case somebody is interested in that. And I set it to super key, aka the Windows key, plus Z, X, or C, depending on the language. And that is extremely comfortable to use for me. I even set it up on Windows the same way, in the sense that Windows actually lets you do that. You can set a shortcut for each layout, a separate shortcut, but it's something like you can't use the Windows key for it. So I used Power Toys to remap a Windows key shortcut to, like a really multi-modifier key that I would never press in my life for each layout. And I wanted to get that working on Linux as well. And on i3, it was rather simple. With X11, it was something like set XP key map or something. Essentially, something specific in X11 that allowed me to control the input method. But then for Japanese, on iBus, I'm using iBus. So if I want to use anti for the Japanese input, I first have to change the engine, like iBus engine, to anti and stuff like that, which I got working for the most part. But it's kind of weird. Like, I couldn't get it working on Nobara for some reason, and I couldn't get it working on XFCE either until I changed the system language to Japanese. But when I changed it back to English, then it didn't work anymore. Or rather, if I switched to i3, it didn't work anymore. But now I somehow got it working, and I don't know. It's kind of messy. But thing is that when I tried setting it up the same way in GNOME as an experiment, in Wayland, it's apparently kind of not possible. Because you can't change the layout in Wayland through the terminal in GNOME very easily, it seems. And it was like, I searched for the question how to do it in Wayland, and it was like, okay, just use this command. Then a year later, this command has been deprecated. Use this command. Okay, now this command has also been deprecated. Use this command. And then it doesn't work, the last command either. And it's pretty hard to get stuff like that working for some reason. But I don't know. It's I guess it's just all a matter of experimentation and learning and researching in Linux, but it definitely takes a lot of time.
Yeah, that's kind of the big problem. When I was swapping over to Japanese input, I didn't have any issue. Well, obviously, besides the issue I mentioned where I had hotkeys overlapping each other because I'm an idiot. Besides that problem, I didn't have any problem swapping into Japanese input. The hotkey would enable it just fine, and it would just let me start typing. So,
yeah, maybe it's better with Musk, but I used Anti. I didn't try out Musk because I think, well, maybe it's fine on Musk as well. But the way I have it on macOS is that when I hit the Windows key or like the shortcut that I have for Japanese for layout, it's in the hiragana mode right away. So it's not like it doesn't type English letters; it types Japanese essentially right away. And on Windows, I have this issue that I need to have the IME activated for each window because if I have it, if I switch to if I'm on the English layout and switch to the Japanese layout, it's the same until I activate the Japanese input separately. And that's really annoying in some applications because in some applications, it doesn't save the state which it was in. For example, in DaVinci Resolve. So right now I'm writing subtitles for both English and Japanese in my video in DaVinci Resolve, and I have to spend a lot of time switching the layout shortcuts essentially because I have to do it with I need 3 to 4 key presses to switch between layouts. And I wanted to get it working the same way on Linux as well, where it's immediate. And Anti worked like that out of the box, but I'm not sure if Musk does as well, so I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, as I said, I haven't messed around with stuff in a little bit. Also, I wasn't using iBus, so I'm not entirely sure about iBus configuration.
Yeah, I haven't tried using FC IXT or whatever it was.
FCITX.
Yeah.
I don't even know why I used that one. I don't recall at all.
It's probably more modern or something like that, but it's just that every issue I have could potentially, well, at least in this regard, it could be potentially also solved if I just used Musk or if I used FC instead of iBus and stuff like that. But yeah, if I want to have the perfect environment, it's definitely going to. It's at this point it needs to be a hobby or something that I get something in return because at least in terms of not in terms of ethics, but in terms of practicality and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's why I have the channel.
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot of my early videos were just I'm gonna make a video about something that I broke and then I fixed. And even now, that still occasionally happens.
And now you have over 1,000 videos.
Yeah, I would like to do the, one highly edited video. And I'm sure, if I did that, it'd probably be better for the channel. I just have this problem where I have a lot of things I want to talk about.
Yeah, it's so, in some ways, I'm I really wish I could make videos like that myself as well, because I have so much to talk about, because we were supposed to end this podcast a while ago.
Yeah, 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, but I can't do that in my videos because every minute of sometimes it takes me an entire day, 10 hours to edit 1 minute of a video. And just recording voice lines takes me also a really, really long time. So the longer a video gets, the longer it takes essentially. And I have established a certain level of format or a certain level of editing effort in all of my videos. So if I suddenly break away from that, it's it feels a bit weird. So and it's going to be, the more videos I make, it's going to be hard for viewers to find videos that are of the current format and hide away the videos that are essentially unedited and stuff like that. But the problem is that YouTube as a career choice heavily depends on quantity over quality, essentially, because even if you make 1,000 videos that get 1K views each, that is 1,000,000 views overall. But if you make, let's say, 12 videos a year, so 1 video a month, there's a high chance that you only get like 100,000 views in total, even though it took you like about the same amount of time to make. So yeah, it's a difficult choice in that sense.
Out of curiosity, how long did that 15-minute macOS video take you to make?
Like multiple months. Like if I take the video that I made before that and then take the video I made after, then it was, I made the video before on February 20th, and after that it was April 13th. So yeah, like a few months.
Jesus.
And right now it's been almost a month since my last video, and actually I was already making the video. I made the last video in like a few days, which is extremely rare. I made it in between making the current video, so in reality the current video has been taking me like almost 2 months right now. So and it's like 24 minutes long right now. So yeah, it's like, it's really hard to balance, because like all the time I'm thinking like, man, I have so many videos I want to make, but I can't because I'm stuck to this format unless I break the format. So, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm glad that all of my videos are of a certain type of, are consistent in a way.
Yeah, my
So, yeah.
my editing is very, very simple. I do not take a month to make a video. I take it's usually about in like the hour and a half range. Like my editing is super basic. I might chuck a couple of JPEGs on top of stuff. Most of my editing is just cutting out my inability to string a sentence together.
Yeah, I'm also like I said, it takes me really long to voice lines. So it's like not common for a 1 minute of voice recordings to take me like an hour or 2 hours, because like even if like it takes me like 15 tries to get a sentence like properly pronounced, so it's articulated properly and so on, but then it has like a click in somewhere that I can't get out of the audio, and it's so noticeable that I have to do it again and things like that. And like if I like start the voice lines, my voice is not warmed up, and it takes me like 30 minutes to an hour to get warmed up. And then it's like, okay, the voice clips that I did a minute ago sound completely different to the ones I did now. So I have to do all of them again, or it's going to sound really weird and stuff like that. It's like,
I know the
really
feeling
annoying.
all too well.
Yeah.
Luckily, I do things in like, well, either another problem where I'll get to the end of my recording session, I'm like, now my voice is kind of tired sounding. Because I'll be like 6-7 hours into recording for that day, and it's like, it's taken a while to get to the point where it's less noticeable that I've recorded something later in the day.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that seem like they don't take any time, but actually are like quite complicated.
Yeah, for sure. We probably should end this off at some point.
Yeah, yeah, probably.
I don't know when this will be out, but maybe you have another video out by then. Because my plan is I'm recording like a bunch of podcasts before Christmas and then release them over that time. So this is probably going to be out, I don't know, probably mid-December, maybe late December.
Okay.
So there's your excuse to get a video done. Check out the channel, see if there's a video there that's new.
Yeah. I guess this is now outside of the episode already. It's not being recorded, right?
No,
right now.
We'll finish off the outro and then tell me what you don't want to be recorded.
No, I was just wondering. It's nothing like that. Outro.
Yes. Outro. Can you do your part of the outro?
Oh, am I supposed to do an outro?
Yes.
Oh,
Tell me where they can find your
okay.
stuff. You've been here 2 times already.
Okay, I misunderstood what you said.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, you can find my YouTube channel on my YouTube. I mean, on YouTube, and you can, I suppose, subscribe to me on Twitter as well and follow me on YouTube. It's completely in reverse, but I mean, I don't use Twitter that much. I just announce videos.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. And for my viewers, I suppose, like I said before, like I genuinely like Brody's channel is the only Linux channel that I'm subscribed to, and I actually watch the videos sometimes. So I really recommend the channel for Linux stuff.
Thank
as
you.
well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Guess my outro. Your videos are also really good. I just don't find time to watch
Thanks.
them because they're long.
No, that's totally fine. Like I have like a bunch of channels that I sometimes interact with as well, but it's like I feel bad because I never watch their videos anymore because I don't have time either.
Like I'll pop back into your channel every couple of months. Like, oh, new video. I'll check that out.
Yeah, every couple months, so there's one new video out.
that's the other problem, because sometimes I'll just forget the channel exists for like 3 or 4 months because your upload rate is like, when your upload rate is as slow as it is, like it's easy to forget that it exists at all.
Yeah. It's exactly like that. It's like there are some of those channels like Internet Historian and whoever who upload like
example,
once a year, and it's like, holy shit, this channel existed. I forgot.
Somehow, once a year, Internet Historian just pops off every time though. Like it's an event whenever it happens.
Yeah, but like his channel started out with much more frequent uploads as well. Like he made like over 20 videos a year before, and now he makes like 1 video a year. So it's like when you have a channel at first, it's much easier to like spam videos essentially.
Yeah. Okay, I guess we'll do my outro. You can find my gaming channel on my gaming channel. That is Brody on Games. I don't know what you're playing. Probably some weeb garbage. I reckon it'll be Neo: The World Ends With You and Neptunia Sisters vs. Sisters. So come on over and hang out if you want to watch some weeb garbage. If you want to go watch my Linux videos, that is on Brody Robertson. I got no clue what'll be there. Probably something about Wayland, because I am a Wayland shill, and that's what I've been dubbed. Both Wayland shill and Wayland propagandist. I wear those titles with pride. And if you're listening to the audio version of this, you can find the video version on YouTube at Tech Over Tea. And if you want to find the audio version, there is a podcast RSS feed. And you'll find it on every podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. Check it out. Chuck the RSS feed in your favorite app, and you'll be good to go. So that is going to be it for me. Give me a final word. How do you want to sign us off?
Goodbye.
Goodbye. See you guys later.
Goodbye, guys.